Hello, everyone. You're listening to Alternative Revelations with Linda Emanuel, and this is podcast number 101. Who is to blame? Where we should focus our blame on. And one of the tactics of the controllers who control the world is to distract us, to divert attention away from themselves. They never do their own dirty work, and there's many scapegoats out there, including Bill Gates. I'm not saying Bill Gates is Mr. Wonderful. He is part of the establishment working under the Vatican, who really control everything. And by the way, when I say Vatican, I'm really talking about the Jesuits, who totally took control of the Vatican in 1815. That's an important date to remember. When the Jesuits finally took over the Vatican, and by that means took over the world. And I'm going to play you some clips in this podcast. There's one clip that just went viral all over the internet. It was an interview done by Jason Goodman, and he interviewed that sleazy lawyer, excuse me. Sorry, Alan, but you are sleazy. You represented the pedophile Epstein and got him off forever. And then you represented Trump. You represented a lot of criminals and got them off, got sweet deals for them. But this clip was from an interview that Jason Goodman did with Alan Dershowitz. Now, remember, a lot of people don't really know what's going on. Now, you know, and I know, that around March 13th, Trump signed into law an executive order giving FEMA full control of our country. Now, FEMA is just another word for the SS in Nazi Germany. They are evil, and they work under the directions of the Jesuits. So I'm going to play you this little clip. And in a way, Alan Dershowitz is right. And Jason argues, wait a minute, what about our constitutional rights? Now, there's so many people that don't know what happened when Trump signed into law giving FEMA total control of our country. We no longer have any rights if you are a citizen of the United States. They can come and take your children away. They can haul your butt off to a FEMA camp. They can force you to do anything, because if you are living under the birth certificate name, that straw name, you are susceptible and answerable to their jurisdiction, their laws, their statutes. Whatever they want to do with you, they consider you a slave, and they own you. And when you filled out that birth certificate for your children, you made them wards of the state. And I'm also going to play you another clip from Jordan Maxwell, how he explains what the birth certificate means. But first, I'm going to give you this clip of Alan Dershowitz. And actually, Alan Dershowitz is right. And Jason Goodman, bless his heart, he's a truther. He's of the light. He has a YouTube channel called Jason Goodman. So you can believe what he says. But sometimes people aren't fully knowledgeable of what's really going on. And here's the clip of Alan Dershowitz from that interview. And here goes.
Let me put it very clearly. You have no constitutional right to endanger the public and spread the disease, even if you disagree. You have no right not to be vaccinated. You have no right not to wear a mask. You have no right to open up your business. You have no constitutional right. You have no right not to be vaccinated. If you refuse to be vaccinated, the state has the power to literally take you to a doctor's office and plunge a needle into your arm.
And I will leave the link to that interview in the description of the podcast and on YouTube. So a lot of people, this has gone viral, and a lot of people do not know that on March 13th, President Trump, he signed into law the National Emergency Declaration, giving FEMA full power over your body, whether you like it or not. You have no rights whatsoever. So now I'm going to give you a clip of Jordan Maxwell about the birth certificate and the history of it. And here goes.
The best way to control people is to keep them frightened and confused. Because if the humanity, even the Bible said basically that if the human race were to ever put down its arms and stop fighting each other and join together and use their minds and use their spirits, that they would be invincible, that they would be an incredible civilization on this earth of extraordinarily brilliant creatures, human beings. And so to keep that from happening, because if we get too smart, our creators or those who think that they own us and control us will have bigger problems trying to control us. So they keep us ignorant and ill-informed and unread and fighting among ourselves like children. That keeps us out of their way, so that they don't do what we do. They don't fight each other. This dollar bill has value because it is based on your physical body. Your flesh and blood body backs up the authority of this money. If you're an American, this money is backed up by your body. Now let me show you how. When you look at the front of the dollar bill, you will see on each side are serial numbers for this particular dollar bill, are serial numbers. If you look on the back of your Social Security card, you will see the numbers on the bottom. The numbers on the bottom, usually in red, represent your blood on the New York Stock Exchange. It represents your physical body. That's why the numbers are in red, representing your blood. Now when you take the numbers on the Social Security card and put it next to the serial numbers on the dollar bill, you will see it's the same sequence of numbers and letters. And so what it's actually telling you is that there's like whatever the amount is, 24 million or 4 million or $6 million, whatever it is that your body is worth on the New York Stock Exchange, there's that much money out there all over the world in fives and tens and hundreds with your Social Security number on it. So these numbers line up exactly correct the same way. The numbers can be in blue, black, or red. And so this is why we, years ago, we used to say the government is just going to beat you black and blue. Because black and blue are colors that are used in banking. You have to sign with a blue or black pen. Or you can sign with a red pen, which represents your blood. Your physical body is really very important to the corporation called the United States Corporation. That again is why they want you to wear your seat belt and have insurance. And in case something does happen to you, you need to have insurance. Why? Because the government doesn't want to pay for you to be in a hospital. They want you out making money for them. They don't have to put the money in to protect you in a hospital. Go get your own insurance. Let them pay for it. The real powers behind banking today in America is insurance companies. Insurance companies are the most powerful hand behind the world of money because it has something to do with the 14th Amendment and how we were changed over from sovereignty, man, woman, and child, into a U.S. citizen. During the 1870s, when the corporation was being born in the minds of the politicians here, when they realized the United States of America was no longer a viable entity because we are a lot of things, but united isn't one of them. So we're no longer a United States, but we're a corporation. And so therefore your body now becomes a security for that corporation and needs money. It's a big corporation and needs money coming in. So that's why they want you to stay safe and drive safe so that you can make money. They don't want to put money out on you. They need you to go out and make money for themselves. This changeover from being sovereign, man, woman, and child sovereigns, which means you are your own law. But when we changed over from the United States of America into a corporation in 1870, and we became known to the world as the United States Corporation, not the United States of America. From 1870 to the First World War and then the Second World War, the United States Corporation went broke, financing all these escapades around the world with wars and revolutions, and paying other countries to be our friends and all that. So the corporation called United States went broke. So they had to go back to the old days, go back to the British banking cartels, who can print money out of nothing and had the ability to finance anything they wanted to do. And so the corporation had to borrow money from the British bankers to keep this corporation going, because the corporation's broke. And you don't want to go broke when you got millions of people who want to eat tonight, and the company, the United States, no longer is operable because it is broke. So the United States went to the European banking system and asked for loans to give us some money, loan us some money so we can keep our corporation going. Well, the bankers there said, well, why would we do that? You are already broke. So why would we turn around and give you money when we know you're broke? So how are you going to pay us back if we did give you the money? And so the British bankers and the international bankers in Europe came up with a brilliant idea. We'll loan you the money on whatever it is you need. We'll give you a blank check, and you can do whatever you want with it, and we'll loan you the money. But what we want is, we want your citizens as collateral. And so the idea was, we'll give you lots of money, but we want your daughter, okay? We want your son. We want your wife. And so today, we are collateral for the money that was borrowed to keep the corporation going back in the 1870s to the First World War. And so today, we still talk about how we have a national debt. We have to pay off this national debt. No one's ever asked the question, who are we paying off? Who are we in debt to? My God, I thought we were the most powerful country in the world, and we're the envy of the whole world, and yet we have a national debt. And so the politicians tell us, no, what it is just that we owe ourselves. You know, we do a lot for you, and so we spend a lot of money on you, building your bridges and all that kind of stuff we do. And so we just want to keep it in the house. So you need to pay us, your government. Yeah, but it's not your government. It represents the bankers of Europe and England. And there is a debt, and you will pay it, because the British bankers loaned us a lot of money to build our railroads and our airports and our highways and all kinds of things that we've been building America, and it's very impressive. Yeah, but you don't have any money. You went broke during the First World War. And so that's why we today are a collateral for the debt. We do have a national debt. And ultimately, at the bottom line, is the Vatican. The Vatican is the ultimate bottom line on all of this dark dealings behind the scenes with bankers in Europe, wars and violence. The whole banking establishment is based on the Vatican canon law. It's a very big story about the history of the world.
So that was a clip from Jordan Maxwell, and I will leave that entire video, which is on YouTube, in the description, the link in the description of the podcast, and also on YouTube. Now you're starting to get an idea of who to blame. It actually is the Jesuits, and I think I said this before in the podcast. 1815 is a really big date for the Jesuits, when they actually took over the world between 1815 and 1822 or the Edict of Verona. And I'll go into more depth about the Jesuits in another podcast. But how do these Jesuits control everybody? Anybody with common sense who is running our state, who is running the county, who are running our cities. Why in the world would they be going along with this plan of forced vaccination, of going door to door looking for people with the coronavirus, and if you're not vaccinated or if you're on some list, they can haul you away? Why are they complying? And this is a really big answer to why. And once you understand why, and that there is a solution about this, why the states and the county and the cities are going along with this stuff when they probably even know what's going on. And the bottom line is this. Everything is a corporation. Your police department is a corporation. Your state is a corporation. Your city is a corporation. The CDC is a corporation. Everything is set up as corporations. And how the Jesuits control, they control it through the government. And what the government does is, it's just an age-old mafia trick. It's like giving a drug dealer, giving somebody, oh, I'll give you a little sample of this heroin to try it out. And then the person gets addicted and they cannot live without the heroin. It's sort of like that. They bribe them and then they get them hooked. And they become part of the system. And then they monitor them. So what has happened is, the big word here is a 5-letter word, grant. The government gives state, county, and cities grants to comply, to run their government. And the county, the state, and the cities become dependent on this money. And if they don't go along with the agenda, the grants are cut off. Now, I'll give you an example. There's some cities in St. Louis that the principal of a high school makes $150,000 for working 9 months of the year. This is all from grants. This is how these cities are really living it up. That's how they pay their police departments. That's how they give you all these luxurious schools. It's all through grant money issued down the line, but they have to comply with what the Jesuits on the very top, of course they don't know it's the Jesuits giving them this money, but they have to comply or their grants will be cut off and they will go bankrupt. That is the secret behind the compliance of why your governors, your county executives, and your city mayors are all going along with the program for 5G and other terrible programs that are going to destroy us. So it's all about grant money that is controlling us, our corporations that are the county, state, and cities. It's grant money. Now, I don't have an answer for this, how to wean a city off of this grant money, because this would mean big, gigantic layoffs of their police department, probably shutdown of schools, shutdown of a lot of services. So we're stuck. We're stuck. Our governments are stuck in a cycle where they are having to do what they're told. And I have no answer, but I did give you an answer of why our own governments are being controlled by the Jesuits. But of course, our governments have no idea about the Jesuits. And by the way, Alan Dershowitz does not take orders directly from the Jesuits. He is a puppet for some other organization, most probably the Jewish bankers. And please don't blame Jewish bankers. The Jesuits want us to blame the Jews. Now, there are Christians and there are Jews and there are Muslims that are traitors to us, that are taking money from the trickle-down effect of the Jesuits. But please do not blame Jewish people. They were persecuted and killed in the Roman and Spanish Inquisition in the medieval times. They were tortured and killed, and the governments, the Spanish government and the Roman government, confiscated the Jewish people's money and belongings. So they made a big profit off of killing Jewish people. And the Jews, for your information, the Jews were used as money lenders by the royalty in the medieval times because the church forbade usury, and usury is charging interest for loans. But the Jewish people, their religion didn't make this a taboo. So that's why they used the Jewish people for bankers. That's why the Rothschilds became the Vatican bankers, or the guardians of the guardians of the money in Switzerland. So I hope this explained a lot. Please don't blame. Don't focus your energy on people like Alan Dershowitz or other people like Donald Trump. They are all puppets of the Jesuits. It's really important to expose who is the root problem of what is going on. And again, I'm just going to be like a broken record here. I'm going to bring this to conclusion. The only solution that we have to protect ourselves from the birth certificate, from being United States citizens and being liable for the national debt and being forced to be vaccinated, is to become sovereign. When earlier when Jordan Maxwell was talking about sovereignty, becoming your own law and no longer answerable or susceptible or under the control of the jurisdiction of the United States, being a citizen. The only answer to protect yourself, your family, your children, are to go back to the land, to surrender your birth certificate. There are steps to do. It's a little bit bothersome, but in the long run, you will be free and you will not be forced into complying with the laws of the United States Corporation. And the first thing you really need to do right away is order from your vital records, the state where you were born, is to order 2 long-form birth certificates. And since they do not allow walk-ins right now, you will have to get a form, get it notarized that it's you, and request those 2 forms in the mail, through the mail. And then while you're waiting for the birth certificates, you fill out the paperwork. And the templates are on ANA, or actually the American States Assembly.net website. You can download these templates, and where it is in red, this is where you put your own personal information. Everything is in place for you to do this. I would say you could fill your paperwork out in 1 day. And you have to get your birth certificates, and you have to surrender them to the U.S. Treasury. And there's examples of how you do this. And then you have to get all this paperwork, the paperwork notarized that it is you that signed this. And then you get it recorded at a land recorder. And I like to use St. Francis County in Missouri because these people are just so wonderful and fascinated with what's going on, in that all of us are recording this information. And it is so cool that these people, I just love these people that live in Farmington. And I also love the city. God bless you, people who live in Jefferson City. These 2 cities are the friendliest cities to visit. I didn't meet any negative people when I went to Jefferson City and got my birth certificates. And I also went to Farmington to turn in my paperwork to be recorded. So, it's a process. It's some work involved. But look what we're facing. We're facing slavery. We're facing being hauled off to a FEMA camp. FEMA has no empathy. They're just like the SS in Nazi Germany, who were really being controlled. Nazi Germany was really being controlled by the Jesuits. And I'll go into that story in another podcast. I want to do a history on the Jesuits. And because I really do believe that if you understand history, then you can understand what's going on right now. And actually, I'm just going to leave this last bit of thought. The Catholic Church took on the premise of Christianity, But what Jesus really came down for was, he was Gnostic. You know how you hear the saying, the truth will set you free. Jesus taught his followers to seek wisdom, to seek knowledge, because knowledge will set you free. And he came down to preach against the controllers who were controlling the world. And actually, he wasn't Jewish. He was an Essene. And I'm going to go into depth. That's another podcast. Creator's been giving me bits and pieces all along here about the true history of Jesus, where he was really born, when he was born. And by the way, Jesus' real birthday is March 25th. Well, the Catholic Church adopted Christianity because they realized if you have a one God nation, then you can unite your people, and they can be controlled easier. So that is one of the reasons they adopted Christianity. There were about 3 choices, but they did choose Christianity. And at the time, they were worshiping Saturn or Satan, and they've never stopped worshiping Satan. They just kind of disguise it, but it's in plain sight if you look at the Vatican. I also like to try to find a video for you about Jordan Maxwell exposing Christianity and other religions. It's the most fascinating video. And I'm going to conclude it here, and I really encourage you to seek knowledge. And I'm going to list some people here who I trust, and who are truthers and who are not shills. And I can't tell you what to do, but people I trust are, of course, Jordan Maxwell, David Icke, Jason Goodman's a good source, James Fetzer of jamesfetzer.com. He's the one, I trust him. He exposed Sandy Hook. He exposed Las Vegas. He's exposed a lot of false flags. He has a radio show on Monday and Wednesday, and I will try to list his website on the description of this podcast. He's a true patriot of America. Another good show to listen to is the Power Hour. They are of the truth. Now, I'm going to list you some people I don't trust myself. Is Henry Mako, Jeff Rentz, Alex Jones, and a new one I'm going to add to the list. He was a guest on Jason Goodman, and he's a totally controlled operative, and I verified this with source or creator. He goes by the name of John Cullen, Cullen. And he also has a YouTube channel called John E. Hoover. It's a little sheriff badge for his emblem. Now, what tipped me off about this guy was I listened to some of his podcast, and he came up with a video on what he said was the truth about Las Vegas shooting. It's totally false. This just tipped me off to this guy. If you want to get the truth about the Las Vegas shooting, get your information from James Fetzer, Fetzer. He's of the truth. In fact, the deep state got him into court. He was sued by one of the parents at Sandy Hook. And of course, the courts are all skewed to the evil side, and James Fetzer had a judgment against him for $450,000. And I don't know too much other details about that. So in conclusion, just like Jesus came down to teach, seek knowledge and truth, and it will set you free. You won't be living in fear. You'll be your own sovereign nation. You'll be a state national. Surrender your birth certificate to the U.S. Treasury. I did it. I am totally of the land now. I am not under their jurisdiction. So I just give a little bit of advice. Be aware, prepare, and be safe in the coming times, especially against FEMA. And until next time, good night and God bless.